Another hot one. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be getting a little more serious and kind of just opening up to you guys a little bit. I thought I would do this sit down video because it's one I've actually thought about doing several times. If you could not tell by the title of this video, I'm going to be talking a little bit more about my eating disorder. I'm going to be sharing about my history of binge eating and kind of how that started for me and where I'm at now. So I'm just gonna jump right into it and start off with a little bit of background. I grew up as a dancer. I was a competitive dancer and I spent majority of my time outside of school dancing and training. In terms of eating disorder, I was always very thin growing up and I never had any issue in terms of needing to lose weight for dance. I would say, obviously, being a dancer, I was always very aware of my body weight and what my body looked like. But because I was exercising about 5 or more hours a day, typically 6 days a week, I was dancing, and then I would also swim for like an hour and a half several days of the week for extra cardio. I was exercising a lot and burning a ton of calories, and kind of mixing that also with full-time school. I didn't really have a lot of time to eat, or I didn't really make a lot of time to eat, so I would honestly have probably like a third of the calories that I should have been eating with the amount of exercise I was doing. This was not intentional. I never meant to undereat or over-exercise. I was always really low with my body weight, and I didn't hit puberty until like 18 years old because I just had such a low body weight. It's very common for dancers, especially ballerinas, which is the style of dance that I spent most of my time practicing. Yeah, I think I was like late 16 or just turned 17 years old when I finally had passed, or when I finally weighed in at 100 pounds. So it took me a long time to reach 100 pounds. Once I had graduated high school and I was finished dancing, I decided to move to Spain. If you've been following my channel for a while, you would know a lot of this, but I moved to Spain, and within a couple weeks, I was diagnosed with lymphoma. Upon my cancer diagnosis, I returned back to Canada, to my home, where I was going to try and self-treat myself the best that I could. And one of the ways that I had decided I was going to heal was through diet. I followed the Gerson therapy pretty closely, where you basically fast with water, do a green juice fast, so not really any fruit, just vegetables, and try to cut out any kind of carbohydrate, which is a sugar which would feed the cancer. It took a lot of self-discipline to eat that way and to do fasting. I had never done fasting before, and I wouldn't say that I did it properly. I wasn't educated on it. However, my cancer story is a whole nother video. I'll iCard that. But basically, once I had the okay that I was healthy from my doctor, I went back to Spain to continue my journey as an au pair. I moved back to Spain with my first host family, which was my original host family from the beginning, and things just didn't work out with them. So after a month there, I ended up finding my second host family in Madrid. I moved, and my second host family situation was also not so ideal. I will iCard my au pair story so that you can understand that situation a little bit better as well. With this family, there were a lot of rules and not a lot of flexibility from me, but kind of where the issues more so started were with this host family having very strict rules about me being in their kitchen unless it was to cook for the family or the baby or to clean the kitchen. There were also rules about me eating food in the kitchen. They didn't really want me to ever go in there, so it wasn't like I could just grab a snack whenever I wanted. I remember this moment very clearly, but I remember one day I was quite hungry, and this was just like a few months into being with this family, and I had eaten 2 bananas that day. So typically I would have a banana with breakfast, and then I just wanted a snack, so I had a second banana that day. And when my host mom got home, she got really upset at me because the bananas were supposed to be for the whole family and for the host baby. I'm pretty sure that I still left like 1 or 2 bananas. I had just had a second one that day, and yeah, she was upset. But I just remember feeling so like ashamed that I had eaten a second banana, and she was clearly very upset about that. And then there were also 2 instances I remember where it was like a family like get together. Probably, I think one was at Christmas, and I can't remember the other, but I was allowed to cook kind of a dinner for myself separately. So I think both times I had made pasta for myself, and I made a fairly large portion of pasta. And I remember both times my host mom had commented to her family in Spanish about how much I ate and how I ate so much food all the time. And yeah, it was just like, she didn't know that I could understand her, but at that point I was fairly familiar with her Spanish. And I remember, again, just feeling like really self-conscious about how much I was eating, because apparently it was like so much food that she decided she had to like share that with all her family and like joke about it or something. Now, I probably shouldn't have let this get to me, but at this point I had noticed that I was gaining weight and that I was not feeling very healthy. I was always so hungry, and it was at this point when essentially my undiagnosed hypothyroid became an issue. So I was eating a lot of gluten and basically just carbs during this time, and it was so bad for my gut. I would have horrible bloating. I had acne for like the first time in my life. I was sick constantly, and you'll see that in my au pair vlogs. I was getting obviously like really sad and kind of depressed, which wasn't just a food thing, that was also the situation. But yeah, then I noticed the weight gain, and so basically within 4 months I had put on 20 pounds. I remember it was at my host mother's sister's house, and they had a scale in their bathroom, and I hadn't stepped on a scale in a long time, but I remember getting on and just like being in shock. And that was actually one of the family dinners where she had commented about how much food I ate. I think I talk about it a little bit more in my au pair video and why I left, but yeah, essentially my host dad did all the grocery shopping, so it didn't usually include a lot of healthy food. It would just be like meat and pizzas, and I was vegan at that time. I remember when I would put the baby down for naps, I would try to sneak bread, because there was always like so much bread in the house, and so I would try to like take bits of bread from each loaf just to try to like fill myself up. And I knew that if I ate any other food, my host mom was probably gonna notice that I had eaten it. And obviously having all that bread and the gluten was just like doing so much damage to my gut and not helping my thyroid in any way. And at that time I was also not exercising. I would take the baby for walks, and we would go to the park, so we would be outside for like maybe 1 to 2 hours a day. But I didn't have time or money to go to a gym. So anyways, then I finally made the decision to move out of my host family's home, and I moved to the south of Spain, where I worked for a tour company. There I had this huge, beautiful kitchen and home almost to myself for most of the day. I was the one that did all the grocery shopping, so I was able to stock up on vegetables, on fruit, on anything that my heart desired, and it honestly felt like a dream come true. I was alone most of the time, so this is kind of when more of the binge eating started. Instead of sneaking what I could like before, I had everything at my disposal. So basically I would make myself very healthy meals for the most part, but just huge portions, like massive portions of like rice, and I didn't really care too much about oil, and I would just like literally stuff my face. I also was eating gluten. I had tried to cut back and I wasn't buying myself bread anymore, but I was still eating gluten. And I still had little to no exercise. There was a giant pool that I had for my own use during the day, and I would swim for usually about half an hour every day. But just with the way everything was, the stress and my thyroid at that moment and the amount that I was eating, that exercise didn't really do very much. My body image at this point was horrible. I hated the way I looked. I knew that I had gained weight. I tried to fast every, I think Saturday it was, and I have a video on my channel, I think, about breaking my fast. But basically I was just eating so much, and then I decided once a week I just wouldn't eat for the day, and it was a fast for all the wrong reasons. But as that time came to a close, I moved back home with my family in Canada for a few months. During that time with them, I would say my relationship with food was a little better, but I was still subconsciously eating less in front of people and then snacking or eating like a second portion on my own away where I knew people wouldn't see me. I also had my first panic attack, and I would absolutely just sob about how much I hated my body. It was the summertime, and the thought of wearing a swimsuit absolutely terrified me. I just didn't want anybody to see what I looked like now, because I knew I had gained about 20 to 30 pounds since I had left for Spain. And yeah, I was just really unhappy with myself. I also had a bit of depression coming back. I would say that like I've had depression and anxiety periodically throughout my life, but at this point it was really based around my self-image. And then after that time being home, I moved into my apartment to go to college, and I was living on my own. I was going to school to become a holistic doula, and I was eating fairly healthy most of the time. I lived in a beautiful city that had so many amazing vegan restaurants, and I ended up getting takeout food more and more frequently. I would get huge orders of food, and I would just eat that all to myself in the evenings. I had a lot of friends during my time in school, but then the summer after my doula program, everybody kind of just moved away and left, so I was really alone. I was really lonely, and I still had some body image issues. I was eating these huge portions of food, and I decided that I was going to start exercising again, but I did it in the wrong way, where I thought if I got back to exercising for many hours a day like how I was when I was dancing, that would be my fix. So I was a nanny during the summer of 2018, and I loved my job. It was the best. That kid made me so happy. However, my thyroid issues were still untreated, and my energy was just like zero. So I was basically drinking like 5 to 7 cups of coffee a day just to keep enough energy to look after a kid, spend time outside with him in the summer, and then I would go and work out at the gym for 2 hours. Every day I did cardio and weight training, so I never had kind of like a balance between the two. It was just every day I would do all of it. This is actually just detrimental to your thyroid over exercising, because your cortisol is so spiked, and the amount of coffee I was drinking was clearly not helping either. Then came the fall, and I went back to school for holistic nutrition. At this time, I also met my boyfriend, and I know he doesn't want me to talk about him, but he's a part of this, so I'm going to mention him briefly. A few things changed in that time. I started meeting friends again because I was back at school and surrounded by like-minded people, and I was taking a nutrition course, so I was really getting to learn more about nutrients and what really would make my body feel its best. I also started seeing a naturopath, and she was amazing. She honestly has done so much for me. I finally learned that I had untreated hypothyroidism, so I completely cut out gluten and other things from my diet, and I really focused on supporting my thyroid and taking supplements. I was back at school and I had actually stopped exercising, but I think it was good to give my body a break from kind of doing the pushing it that I was before. And with school starting up, having friends, and seeing my naturopath, my depression started to get a lot better. My acne and pimples were finally starting to go away, and I was losing a little bit of weight. Specifically with taking the gluten out, that made a big difference. And meeting my boyfriend was one of the best things that happened to me as well, because he is also following a plant-based diet, and he loves to cook. So it was the first time for me where I would have someone else cooking with me and eating with me, and I wouldn't just be eating alone, watching a show by myself. And I became a lot more intuitive, I think, with how I was eating. He also loved and accepted me, which is something that I think would have taken a lot more time for me to do on my own. I'm not saying that that's not possible, because I do believe that even if I was on my own, eventually I would get to the point where I am now. But he definitely helped me and fast-tracked that a little bit by just loving and accepting me and feeding me, showing his love of cooking and eating healthy vegan food. Once I moved into my truck camper, I also started exercising again regularly, because I had a pass to the gym where I would use the facilities and the showers. I started finding more of a balance in my eating, and yeah, I was never afraid of eating in front of my partner, and I think that's the reason that a lot of this changed. I never felt guilty having seconds or eating more. I really was focusing more on nutrients now with all of my nutrition training, and I was working out in a healthy way, going to the gym for an hour and not overdoing it. Of course, I am not perfect. I still have days where I'm unhappy with my body, or I feel like I haven't been eating well. Maybe I do eat like shit one day, and that's just how it goes, but I don't feel like it's as big of a struggle to get back on track with eating well and feeling right. Also feeling like I have my thyroid more under control, and that's managed a little bit better, is really a big deal for me. With my binge eating, I did try to purge or throw up. This happened more so when I lived on my own in my apartment. I think there were just days where I wouldn't have left my apartment and I didn't really see anyone, more so when I didn't have friends there. And I would just go from like a full weekend of eating a whole bunch of food and feeling really shitty, and I would try really hard to just vomit up everything that I'd eaten, but I was never really successful with that. I definitely don't feel any urges like that anymore. I think something that helps is also having someone that understands and can help support you during times like that when you are struggling with your body image or eating. Eating disorders are not an easy thing. They really stick with you, and it's a hard thing to come out of and not fall back into. I know a lot of people that struggle with different eating disorders, and if you didn't know, that's the reason why I actually went vegan initially, almost like I think 7 years ago now, is because I was trying to help somebody who was struggling with anorexia. I don't think I ever consciously decided that I was going to binge eat. It was just something that became kind of this subconscious, almost like need to. I obviously also am not blaming my host family at all for anything that happened while I lived with them. I've mentioned this in previous videos before, but I should have spoken up. I needed to speak up, and I should have vocalized how I was feeling about not having adequate food. But anyways, yeah, that is my binge eating story for you guys. I hope that you didn't mind this really long sit down talk video. I hope that somebody out there can take something away from this that will help them. I'm always here to talk. You can DM me on Instagram, on my social media, or leave a comment down below. I am very happy to say that I feel like I am in a really good balance and have a really good relationship with food right now in my life, and also with exercise. I feel like I have a healthy routine with both of those things. Anyways, I won't continue on. Thank you so much for watching. Please comment, rate, and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.